get started pretty quickly today because we do have a lot of stuff to cover. While we're waiting to get started, I'm going to launch a poll, which is just about the size of your organization, which just helps us know who's in the room. And if you could also say hi in the chat, we would love to know who you are, where you're based, who you help. It really helps us to know, where you work, the work you do, and understand what's important to you. So I'm going to launch the poll now as well. So what you should see pop up on screen is a question that asks you about the size of your charity by annual turnover. It's all anonymous, but if you could sort of choose the one that best fits you, that will really help us to understand who we have here. I'm going to leave that running for a bit because there's still a few people joining from the waiting room. While we do this, we're just going to quickly introduce ourselves. And then please, as I say hi in the chat and introduce yourself as well so we know who's here. So my name is Robin. I'm a co-founder of Pravi. Pravi is a platform that helps charities grow online and find new donors. I'm going to talk about that more at the end of the webinar. This is actually the 15th webinar that we've run. And so I just wanted to say, it doesn't matter how big your organization is, how long you've been working in the charity sector, what your role is. If you want to find out how you can successfully partner with corporates, you are 100% in the right place. I'm going to hand over now to Diana to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I am Diana Squires, and I work at Pilotlight. We build capacity for UK charities through skills-based volunteering, and our programs connect charity teams with leading businesses at no cost to the charity for coaching, consulting, collaboration, and mutual learning. This creates shared value with lasting social impact because we know that many charity teams are time poor, or they have skill gaps, or they just need a dedicated space to be strategic away from the firefighting. So my background includes various leadership and innovation roles in both the social sector and corporate settings. And at Pilotlight, I've worked directly with over 50 charities and companies such as Morgan Stanley, Deloitte, Barclays, Deliveroo, and even small boutique companies like insurance firms that operate locally. So I design and deliver a range of our programs from 90-minute idea sessions to longer-term strategic coaching. And even though we don't provide funding, a lot of our charity partners, in addition to the work they do gaining skilled volunteering with us, they get a lot of funding from corporates. And so I've seen what works and what doesn't for larger and smaller charities, partnering with larger and smaller businesses. So, should I overview what we're covering today, Robin?
Yeah, absolutely. What I can do is I can also end the poll if I think we've got a lot of people here. So if you want to have a quick look at who we've got on the line today, I'll end the poll and share the results. So everyone should be able to see those now. So a real mixture of different sizes, which is great.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, in terms of the makeup of the social sector, I know not everyone here is from the UK, and that's where my expertise is. But 80% of UK charities have a turnover that is under 100,000 per year. Very small. And less than 5% of charities in the UK have a turnover of over 1 million. So what's interesting in the chat is I'm seeing just over 50% of you that are under 1 million. And so you're going to be thinking about how much resource do you have to go after corporate relationships? And we have a higher proportion of the charities that are actually in the minority. So our larger charities, 1 million plus, are overrepresented here. And that makes a lot of sense because you need to have a lot of resource and you need to be fairly sophisticated to be able to build corporate partnerships that last. So I wanted to be really honest about that because as smaller charities are looking to diversify their income, you have to think about what sources are likely to promise and what the return on investment will be and that ratio to see if it's right for you. So thank you for submitting. You will have seen, if you registered in advance, a chance to drop things on a Miro board about your pain points and ambitions, which is helpful to know how people are showing up. I'm seeing some things on there already that chime with what I hear from charities all the time. And so an invitation for you to use the Miro board if you haven't done that yet. Robin is going to put that link in the chat. And just saying hello, I spot some people from my LinkedIn network or Pilotlight network in the participant list. So thank you for those of you who came. So we are curious about some thoughts from you on Miro, and you're welcome to open that up. If at any point you're finding that Miro is just beyond you, a lot of tech things are beyond me personally, then just use the chat because we're going to hear from you that way as well. But I also want to encourage you, even if it opens and you're sharing a screen with someone else and that sort of thing, do just look at it and see what other people are putting, and you can reflect on that. I'm going to chat a little bit for about 10 minutes about strategies for partnering with corporates. And then we're going to give you the chance to workshop an elevator pitch and start thinking about what could you offer that appeals to the target of your ask. And we are going to use the very end for questions. This is a short and complimentary workshop, so we won't get to every question given the number of people who signed up, but we will surface as many as we can. That is, yeah, a bit about who we've got here. And the Miro board, I will let you know when that opens up and we start using it. So, we are sharing it here, and I'm seeing some people start to drop things in there, which is fantastic.
So as you guys can see on your screens, I'm also sharing my screen. So if you just want to look at it via my screen, that's absolutely fine. The yellow section here with questions. You can see people adding stuff here with your 2 pain points. And then here as well.
So what you may notice as well, if you feel like your top things are already reflected, because I think a lot of these will be common, on the left is our yellow questions section, which is where, if you're using the board now, it's the easiest place to park questions that you are hoping will get answered. And again, you can use the chat alternatively if the board isn't working for you. But for now, the question is your top 2 pain points, and just one, if it's mainly one. And then in the green, your primary ambition for corporate partnerships. And it's interesting to see the variety already. Looking for profile, not just funding, looking to reach people. And some charities have that sense of being more relational than transactional in the person who said long-term relationships, which is fantastic.
And if anyone can't share in the Miro board, just put the answers to those 2 questions in the chat and I will copy and paste it onto the Miro board for you. So your pain points in the area of corporate partnerships and what your ambitions are for corporate partnerships.
Yeah, I just spotted the one where you said corporate seems shocked when you put a price tag on things. There is increasing awareness of in the corporate sector than there used to be that hosting volunteers takes resource. I've seen one of you put things that I also hear all the time. And that is that corporates will say, great, well, we want to help you by giving you volunteers. And what they're really trying to do is create a jolly for their employees. And if volunteers aren't your area of greatest need, then you might feel pressured to create an experience for them because you want that relationship. And you may feel like you can't charge, but really it's pulling you away from your charitable activities. And so there are, I mean, Pilotlight works with businesses and they do pay for volunteer experiences. And it's just that education. The sophisticated partners realize that it takes time and skill to coordinate volunteer resource. And I think the ones that don't see that, I would just say if you don't have time to be an educator and a thought leader in that area, just walk away and look for the people who are more aligned. But if you do have a bit more resource, look for examples online and things that are written, and you can share with them. Corporates who are mature in their understanding will pay for volunteering experiences. And for some, that could be a light bulb. Yeah, seeing a lot of where to begin. And we will cover that today. And it's going to come back to what you'll hear me keep saying. That's the question of resource in any marketing, in any sales, in any fundraising. There's a lot of research required. There's a lot of tailoring the ask, qualifying leads. And so if you can do it, but you'll need to dedicate time and have some expertise. Ooh, yeah, politically divisive controversy. Yeah, we have a lot of corporate partners, and the larger they are, the more risk averse they are. So I was just hearing from a charity that would like support, and I'm looking at an aspect of their offer that for a really large risk averse company, I know they're not going to want to touch it. If you have anything that could be seen as controversial, even if you don't think it's controversial, go for smaller corporates. They have less to lose. They don't have a massive PR team that's thinking about media pickup of something that's on social media. And look for relationships. What is a small business that has a tie to your local community work? And build a relationship. So you want to think about your trustees. Who do they know? If you work with children, where do the parents of those children work? And if you're in something related to, for instance, the charity I'm a trustee of, they work with pregnancy, loss, and parenthood. And that isn't a feel-good cause for everyone. And an employer might worry, oh, people who have unplanned pregnancies, might they be triggered by this? Again, you get more conservative decisions the larger the company is. And so look for smaller companies and who has an interest in maternal health. How does that jive with what their business does? And I'm going to share an example of how the charity aligns with what the business does. Having to jump through their hoops. I just want to validate the person who put that. And there's a lot of chat on LinkedIn, and some corporates are more considerate of charities' time than others. So I'm just going to name that. And they can have a multi-stage process. And the worst culprits will publish their criteria fully after a lot of charities have already spent time applying and they haven't fully thought through their criteria. So I'm just full of health warnings today. These are the perils that you may encounter from businesses that are thinking less about the user experience of the charity. No team, just me trying to achieve fundraising targets. You are not alone. You are with 80% of charities, as I mentioned. And so you, whoever wrote that, and if you're similar to that person, you want to think about local businesses, leverage the relationships that you have. Corporates will take a lot of time. I think something that's adjacent to today, if you do feel discouraged by that, is I work with so many charities trying to do the same thing, trying to reach the same schools or trying to reach the same corporates and competing for the same grants. Are there other charities that you could partner with that do similar things? Because for those who are kind of familiar with business terminology, it's a red ocean. It's a saturated market. You have rivals trying to do exactly what you're trying to do, and there's a lot of noise. If you are struggling as a charity in today's climate, you might want to think about joining up with other charities, getting to know other charities, merging with other charities. We have a lot of charities closing down. So I think that's a bigger picture strategic question for you. Awareness of what you do. Yep. Yeah. And let me look at ambitions here. So to get a sense of who's on the call. So I'm seeing a very sophisticated approach that I'm going to talk about where someone says, we want partners, not just funders. We want them to help deliver the social impact that we create. This would also include wider exposure for both them and us. Ding, 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 ding. This person, you have read my mind. This is what corporates want. This is a key to successful relationships. helping local businesses connect with their community through volunteering. Fantastic. If you don't have the capacity for volunteers, be okay with that not being your greatest need. Um, this organization does have capacity for volunteers, and what they're doing right is saying local businesses want to connect with their community. And so we are offering something that meet a business's need. That's fantastic. That's how you need to think. What can you offer that meets a need of a business? And just up from that, shared goals and vision. That's another bit of gold. Where do you align? What do they want that you want? What do they care about that you can offer? We're going to be workshopping that later today. Skillshare, that's great. That's what Pilotlight does. So again, if you can't accommodate a large group of volunteers, you can counter propose. Do you have two people who are really tech savvy? We could use some help in our office from a couple of people who are tech savvy. Corporates, again, this is more the larger ones, but they will allocate a couple of days of free volunteering a year to employees. So again, if you can't accommodate a large group of employees, look for finding relationships with someone who can do the London Marathon or the equivalent, someone who can do a challenge fundraiser for you. And businesses also have networks. There are parent networks within a business. There are LGBTQ and ally networks within a business. So if you're thinking really big and you have the resource to approach big ones, which will take more time, you want to find ways in that aren't just the checking on the website for sort of the generic email address. Because as someone noted on the board, they may ghost you. You may not stand out from other causes. They may not get back to you. You want to look at LinkedIn. Who are the people that work on anything to do with L&D, if your offer could connect to that, HR, if your offer could connect to that, or people that put on their LinkedIn, I'm part of the parent network or I head up the parent network at this bank. That is where these little initiatives within big businesses, you might have that one person who's a parent who's experienced something related to what you do who will get excited about it. All right, couple more minutes. Let me look. What else? Sometimes corporates want exclusivity in return. I really want to validate that. This is, again, another area that Pilotlight has to educate some of our partner businesses in, that they will want to put their own personal stamp on things. And creating a bespoke product for one partner is not scalable. If you are small and you have a long-term committed partner, fantastic. The longer they're committed and the higher their investment, the more you can justify tailoring something to them. You need to think about and have the courage to let a partner know the context of you as a partner. You want to share that you understand their context, and that means you're not just cap in hand, it's not just transactional. But when they know that you understand them and you empathize with them and you're interested in their goals, you can also say, this is what our resources can do. We can do a bit more for our partners that give at a higher level. The other thing you can do is make something look bespoke when it isn't. So if they want to give it a name and if they want to have some ideas of how it will work, great, work that in, be a co-designer. But in the back of your mind, be smart about you need to pull something off the shelf if they're giving it a small level and you're trying to have more partners. If you have fewer resource available at the charity, you need to have fewer relationships, period. And then you can think about if you can give more to those relationships. So you've got to think really shrewdly about your resource and be confident in saying what you can give and what you can't. Building a personal relationship makes it easier. It allows the person to see the real you. If you're talking with them, if you're taking them for coffee, if you write them a handwritten note, they'll see you more as someone that they can converse with. It gives you that freedom to be real with them. Industry contacting us to be part of tenders. Now, I don't know if that was a pain point or an ambition. But if you put in the chat what you're thinking, then that would be really interesting. Charities in different financial brackets. Yeah, Maxine, you can either ask me on LinkedIn, or if I get time, I will copy that into the chat. Understanding how to engage industry. Yeah, I'm going to be covering that. Yeah, so those who are looking at corporate volunteering and how to get corporates to pay for this, you want to look at the organizations that exist that are very large, that are facilitating corporate funding. They have probably published research on the economic benefits of having people volunteer. Pilotlight and Pro Bono Economics have published a lot of research about the value of volunteering to the economy. Uh, Capacity builders like Groundwork and Volunteer Matters, they are explaining to businesses and arranging the relationships that businesses would have to pay for. So if you're speaking with someone and they don't understand that, there might be some research that you can cite. So take a look at that. All right. If you want to stop sharing, I am
Sure.
going to start talking about different types of partnerships so you can think about what is going to fit your resources.
And just for everyone, please keep the Miro board open because we're going to come back to it. So after Dinah has shared a presentation, we're going to come back to the same thing. So don't close everything down.
Perfect, perfect. Great. All right. I believe you can see my screen.
Yep.
So, given the charities pressure, the pressure that's on the sector, the pressure that you're facing, many charities would say, especially the smaller charities, that their ideal corporate partnership is purely philanthropic. It's smart, right? Less time from you, more funding that you can rely on. Long term, wouldn't that be great? Businesses are increasingly selective about partnerships, and we just have to acknowledge that no matter how philanthropically minded a business is, we know that their bottom line is not to be charitable. Now, charities who have a more mature and successful partnership strategy are further along this continuum. It's not one way, it's not transactional, it's more integrated, and at its best, it's mutually transformative. A transformational partnership is strategically aligned, it creates mutual value, and the two partners have an overlap in their mission. There is a sense of shared mission in what you're doing. Pilotlight's long-term partners who give through skilled volunteering, they see us as a partner in social impact and a partner in bringing value to their business. That takes time to build. It takes a thoughtful approach, and you need to get to know them, and you need to have some research at your fingertips. So, a transformational partnership that is strategically aligned. In order to get there, a charity needs to think like their potential partner. We need to build a strong understanding of the outcomes that partner will value. So, what is the best case scenario? Pilotlight has a lot of charity partners, as I mentioned, that might receive some funding, and they also have some volunteering opportunities. And there really is a sense that lots of people are benefiting from that relationship. So, let's look at Breast Cancer Now and M&S. Big company, well-known charity. M&S is famous for its underwear. So, a partnership with Breast Cancer Now makes strategic sense. For the charity, the bra fitting is a perfect place to provide information on how to perform self-exams and access to NHS screening. The partnership has even inspired the development of a post-surgery bra. M&S raises money for Breast Cancer Now, and it brings its skills, its reach, and its brand to the party too. Now, some of you put ambitions just like that on the Miro board. So what can we learn from this? That is that the best partnerships are not bolt-ons. They grow out of what the business already does. Now let's talk about the sleep charity, which is much smaller than Breast Cancer Now. Good sleep is essential for health and well-being, and their mission is to help the nation sleep better. Now, someone put on the mural board, our cause isn't as sexy as others. When I think of the charity, and I think of children with cancer, and I think of fuzzy puppies, this might be one of the ones that people think this charity is not going to tug on hearts and minds in the same way, right? Okay, so they have created partnerships with mission-aligned companies that sell beds, bedding, pajamas, sleep socks, and more. And this works for the sleep charity because their corporate partners' commercial offer directly connects to their mission. So it doesn't require a purely philanthropic view from the company. They have a shared mission, and even though it's a smaller charity, they can have strong partnerships. They need to look in a more targeted way because they don't have all the time in the world to go after Nike, to go after Amazon, to go after the big companies that we think of. You've got a lot of competition for those big companies' attention. So you need to ask who shares your mission commercially in some way. And the answer is often closer than you think. So this framework is something that we use in our longer programs, and I'm going to breeze through this pretty quickly. But it's a well-known persuasive framework for proposal writing. You open by naming the business's real challenges and priorities, not yours. And a charity and funding applications and social media, you're used to leading with your cause and your impact on beneficiaries. So this is a bit of a mindset switch. You need to look at outcomes. The outcomes that you might be used to talking about are how many young people are graduating because of our learning programs. Great. You need to think about outcomes that are relevant to the business. Those young people who are graduating are entering the workforce, or they might have more financial freedom to buy the business's products. What are the specific measurable results that your partnership will help deliver that benefits the business and the needs that you've identified? Your solution, how do you deliver in a concrete way and a credible way? And then what is the evidence? I mentioned stats before about how volunteering is good for employee productivity and that sort of thing. What are the case studies where you've made a difference for a business? Now, you can still include hearts and mind. You can still include user testimonials from people who are your service users, but you need to think about what does this business want to understand and what do they want to benefit from. You need to remove the risk from them saying yes to you. So I'm going to give an example of an elevator pitch. Now, if you've spoken out in the community about your charity, you might have a very different elevator pitch. But I've made up a charity called Balance, and they're a mental health charity. And this is their elevator pitch to corporates. We are a mental health charity that equips businesses across the UK with the knowledge and proven strategies to keep their workforce healthy and productive. By sharing our on-the-ground experience about mental illness and preventative measures that work for individuals in employment, we increase line managers' confidence and leadership effectiveness with their teams. Our toolkit also helps colleagues recognize warning signs in the team and better support each other. Our corporate partners report that our educational interventions and resources have reduced employee sick days by 18%, and they see an average 10% increase in positive Glassdoor reviews. This charity would need to have enough corporate partners to find some stats, and they would need to have enough resource to track that impact data, just the way you might be tracking impact data for grants. But this sort of approach focuses on what is it about the mental health cause that matters to a business? What does the business care about? They care about line managers and leadership effectiveness. They care about cohesive teams. They care about healthy employees who are showing up to work and being productive. They care about people who like working there and feel happy and satisfied working there, and so they will increase their positive PR. Now, this imaginary mental health charity, but I've worked with many like it, they are supporting end users all over the place. But if they want to have a corporate offer that a business will pay for, they are looking at business need and something tangible that they can deliver. So I'm going to let that sink in for a bit. and stop sharing my slides. Now we are going to go back to Miro. So some of you might have a corporate offer, as an example, that you have already made, like this charity where they said, hey, DEI matters, learning and development matters, strong HR matters. We have something that we can offer, and we have enough time to develop that and to market that and to manage relationships. These tables might be a bit easier for you. So if you don't have something concrete that is a service to offer, why don't you stick some things that you can offer in the table? And because your name isn't on it, you can treat it as a very rough brainstorm. So, what can you offer and how does this meet a business need? And even if it's not fully fleshed out, stick it in there. Someone else might build on that idea. They might have something similar. You can drag over a star if you think something is really fantastic. And then we can all learn from each other's ideas. So while you're thinking, I worked with a charity recently called Fast Forward, and their core reason for existing is to reduce gambling and risk-taking behaviors for young people. Now, in order to partner with corporates, they started thinking about parents. And they started giving some awareness to parents, which serves their charitable aims and it serves the business aims. So by doing an activity, it wasn't just jumping through a hoop for corporate money, it was also advancing their charitable objectives, which is something that they can market to individual donors, to grant funders. And it wasn't just a bolt on, as I said, it was finding an overlap in mission. So the employees suddenly had awareness of a charity that didn't exist before. They then have social media followers. Those employees might have enough means to give individually. Expertise, great. Someone's putting in the expertise they have. Drop in your expertise, even if you don't know if it meets a business need. Someone else on this call might be able to think of one, or I might think of one.
And feel free to use the chat as well. Feel free to put anything you can offer in the chat and I will copy it into the Miro board.
So, an organization in Leeds that just that posted in the chat. It's interesting, human rights in relation to tech. So this may seem obvious to you, it may not seem obvious to everyone. You want to think about really tech-forward companies. Which businesses make money from tech in some way? We are increasingly finding that our corporates, the really large ones, are wanting to have something that really aligns with what matters to their employees. Now, if you are in Leeds and you have smaller resources, you want to look at local businesses in Leeds and market to people directly. And so there might be smaller companies that use technology or have a connection to it. So is there a boutique business that you can market to?
There are a couple of others we've had in the chat, which is expertise in debt advice, especially for people who are in crisis, and
Mm.
also expertise in youth leadership.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I am running a program. I have a couple of programs coming up that are in the financial services space, and they are interested in working with charities that work in the financial space. So we have been approaching charities that offer debt advice. If you are located near the London area, please do get in touch with me because we have some spots. But again, do you see how the alignment is of key interest to the business? There are so many charities that they could be working with. Um, and so they start to become interested in that. Again, they're quite large. They have a lot of resource. So businesses that are smaller are a bit more open-minded. Yeah. So the person who put EDI expertise, you're going to want to think about where are those groups. Again, if you are quite small, work your network, find out the places of employment amongst the people who follow you. And so if you're having, say, a large community event and there's a registration form, ask what business they work for on the registration form and start to find out patterns. Who are the people already connected to me? That this business might have heard of me. Again, if you're really small, you might want to think about the fact that larger companies do have donation matching. So, how can you find your way in through individuals? Because if that company is too competitive and they might be ghosting people as a result, you think about one person who works at that company who's donating that and the company is matching it. So what are the small ways in if you're a smaller charity? The other nice thing is in the age of AI, it's easier for us to ask AI which companies have donation matching schemes because they might have mentioned it on their job posts. And so you could find out who is in my immediate area if you're more of a niche, locally based charity, and who offers donation matching schemes. So even companies that are really large, sometimes they want all their regional offices to be involved with charities in their local community. It's really hard to get on the radar of a big company. If you find someone who works there, it's a bit easier. But if there is a regional office in your area of a large company, then LinkedIn will be your friend. The name of the person who is in some related job title. And just, again, use AI to find out who is in a parent network at that company, who relates to something, who was involved with a volunteering activity, and look for your ways in. Emergency food. Again, you might have restaurants if they're more well established because restaurants are high turnover. But yeah, who cares about food in their industry? Yeah, so this one is interesting. Someone says they have annual awards. Interesting. Yeah, so you're probably thinking about sponsorship. I think you might also, as a resource save, co-opt some of the copy that you're using at those annual awards and talk about bringing the community together. And citizenship within the community. So, if you want to approach a local business that might be approached by fewer charities, you could then potentially copy some of your marketing because bringing a community together and being directly connected to the community might be really important to that local business. Carbon offsetting, fantastic. This is going to take a more sophisticated approach. So you are going to want to have enough resource. I'm working with a very large charity right now who is developing an offer. They have a lot of name recognition and they're in one of our programs where they've got some sophisticated consultants working for them and they're working on how to pitch that, how to price that. So it's yeah, you need a more sophisticated approach, but there is absolutely a market there. Making the connections between local corporates and local groups. Yeah, very interesting. Now, this is interesting. The person who put expertise on slavery, a lot of companies now have an anti-slavery policy or a stance on that. So again, larger companies takes more resource, but if you are a larger charity and you have the resource, again, AI can help you find out which companies have developed a stance on slavery in their procurement, and someone in their HR department is clearly thinking about that as significant. So who can you find and who can you get on the radar of? Great. All right. So we are going to pivot to a bit of a hive mind. Again, this is 1 hour. It's a whistle stop tour. So we are going to put you in a breakout room with a few people. And I want you to think about the elevator pitch that I shared and how it positions something that the corporate can benefit from, and takes into account what do they need and what do you offer credibly. So you may already have an elevator pitch for your charity that is a bit more generic. So think about tailoring that. Or just make up one on the spot, and it can be rough. That's why we're going to put you in a breakout with just one or two other people. It's a safe space. Think about rough ideas and encourage each other. So here's how we're going to structure it because it's just a little under 10 minutes. Your first few minutes, you might want to introduce yourself, but your first few minutes are solo time. So take 2 or 3 minutes to individually workshop a bit of a pitch. Then take a minute each to deliver that pitch to the other people on the call. So imagine you're talking to someone who works at a business. Give it a run, give it a practice. You could also, if it's very rough, use your 1 minute to just say, here are the things that I'm thinking. What do you think? And then the final 3 minutes are to exchange feedback. So again, you'll be with one or two people. Take a couple of minutes to individually think about your own ideas. Then give each person 1 minute to deliver their pitch or their rough ideas. And then take that last 3 minutes amongst you to give some feedback or to exchange ideas. Brilliant. So probably just scratched the surface, but I hope that illuminates the value of a thinking partner. And one of the takeaways that I hope you will leave with, and that is that charities could be cooperating and joining forces a lot more in a fragmented sector. And if there's a charity that works in a completely different area, either geographically or cause-wise, be thinking partners, connect on LinkedIn, and start helping each other expand your ideas of what you can offer. Saw something really interesting, some good thinking from Jim Prescott in the chat around thinking about the need of the business and what they can connect. So that's great. So hopefully this has started you on that journey. Before I get to some questions on the Miro, we just wanted to share a few next steps so we can stay on as long as possible for questions. And that is a few upcoming opportunities on the screen for charities in different sectors that Pilotlight is connected with and programs coming up. So if that looks like you, both location and cause, then do find me on LinkedIn. The slides have my QR code, or I'm pretty easy to find, Diana Squires Pilotlight. And we do have a QR code for our newsletter. So we are increasing the resources that we provide, a sense of digital community, and of course, opportunities for programs. So do sign up for Pilotlight's email newsletter if you're in the UK and want to have yourself on our radar. So, Pravi, next steps.
Yeah, so I've put some links in the chat as well. So links to my LinkedIn, Diana's LinkedIn, and the various websites. Feel free to put any questions in the chat too. For any of you that are completely new to Pravi, this is my platform that I've built to help charities of any size access data about the types of people who give to a cause like yours. And we've also built AI tools specifically for charities to help make social media and growing online easier. If that sounds interesting to you, if you'd like to see how the platform works, you can go to our website to book a demo, or you can always just reach out to me on LinkedIn or email. On this last slide, I've got our QR codes again, but I've also, as I said, I've put the links in the chat. I think we have lots of questions, so let's dive into those.
Fantastic. So there's a theme on the question board around ways in if you are more niche or if you are smaller. So I'll just recap some things that I said. The hospital charity. So if you don't have volunteer opportunities, that's fine. Start to think about whether employees could maybe do a challenge fundraiser. So if you could get one employee who's raising over £1,000 for their own marathon, that is less labor than creating a volunteer opportunity and trying to charge £1,000 for it. And again, thinking about employee giving that can be matched by the corporate. So for that, you're going to want some personal ways in. You're going to want to look at relationships that you have 1, 2, and 3 degrees of separation, trustees, high net worth donors. Who do people know? Think about friend raising before you can do fundraising. Um, yeah, values alignment, I'll have to be really quick on that. There are other people with more specialized expertise on due diligence, but I think you want to look at what they publish about who they do and don't partner with. And I just want to be honest that some corporates are not wide open and transparent about that. The larger that they are, it may not be obvious. So AI is your friend to figure out things if they have. If there has been any PR that might not sit well with you, if there have been any scandals, if there have been anything that doesn't look right, if you've got small resources, AI can find things that take much longer on a Google search. Um, Brilliant. Finding a corporate that has similar values to ours. So the kind of thinking you were doing in the breakout room hopefully got a bit of ideas sparking. And a parent care charity. So I'll just recap what I said about parent networks and businesses, or even the demographics of where people are working. And so you said, do I need to find someone who has similar visions, or can they be anyone? There is luck of the draw. So Pilotlight, as an intermediary, we are able to work with very large companies like Deloitte and Morgan Stanley. And a lot of the people who work in the volunteering segment of that company do have big hearts. They want to make a difference. They might have to make tough choices sometimes about controversial causes. But I think if it encourages you, I'll share one story. There's a charity called Surviving Economic Abuse. And they ended up joining a program with a very large corporate that we ran. And it just so happened that the woman who works in that corporate office has experienced domestic abuse in a relationship 10 years ago. And she said, I know exactly what economic abuse is. A lot of people don't know it exists. I'm so glad that we're going to be able to work with this charity. So these people do have influence, and you don't know what matters to them. The Miscarriage Association, I'm currently working with on a health program. You don't know who has had a miscarriage. So these things are not Googleable, but I just want to encourage you, if you have the time to invest, you can find people who have a personal resonance with the cause, or you may find people who realize there might be hidden impacts on the team that you manage from this issue. X percentage of people in the population are affected by this issue, and you have a high number of employees. Even if you're not aware of it, your employees might be facing this. So start to think about how your numbers and your impact might be relevant, and you can help the business person you're talking to recognize that relevance. Being based in a specific area. This is again where a larger intermediary like Pilotlight can put things on the radar. If it's a bigger company with regional offices, sometimes bigger companies want big charities. Other times they want opportunities for local connections. So I think if you have small resources, again, target smaller businesses, and then they're going to love that you're just down the road. Because the big name charities that are only 1% of the pie chart, they're going to be targeting the big companies. But of course, if you do find an opportunity that you want to bid for, and they're larger and not in your area, it takes resource, so up to you. Great. Let me see if there's anything. Have you spotted anything in the chat that I have not answered, Robin?
I think we're doing pretty well. I'm just having a quick scan through. I think most of these are people sharing what they can offer and responding
Mm,
to the questions on the Miro board. Uh,
nice.
so yeah, we have a couple of minutes left. So if you have any real last minute questions, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Fantastic. And if you want to flip back to the Pilotlight slide with opportunities coming up, I'll just give another shout out. If you work in something related to health or something related to finance, and you're located in Andover or London, respectively, we have spaces filling quite fast. So do message me on LinkedIn. And we have other programs coming up in the autumn. So do go to the Pilotlight website and put in an inquiry or just sign up for our newsletter and we'll get in touch.
So we did have a quick last question here from Rachel Parry.
Great. Mhm.
How do we manage when we aren't local? We're remote national, and so we have no local community.
Yep, absolutely fine. So I think yeah, you're going to be looking for funding rather than volunteering. Um, I think you still might have people in your network who work at employees and might be able to do donations that the employer matches or might be able to do a challenge fundraiser. But I'd say if you're looking at if you have the resources to go after corporate asks, then you are going to want to go through those official channels. But I would again just get into some networking and find some specific people you can talk to on LinkedIn, because if they're located near where your employees live, you can have an in-person coffee, and that's fantastic. But absolutely, a lot of corporates will support charities that work nationally, and they usually love that because your impact is spread quite widely.
Awesome. So we're almost at time. Someone's asked about templates and things. I assume there's some resources on the Pilotlight website, Diana, for this type of thing.
Yeah, I think I think I'd use that like if you're in our program, you can get some work on that. But I'd say you use AI in different things if you want to have a template or get some advice. There's a comms person on this call named Julia who put her info, and she's someone who can support you with that. So do scroll up if you'd like.
Cool. All right. Well, so we're 1 minute over, so I'm just conscious of the time, but I really want to thank everyone for joining us and getting involved with all these kind of hands-on exercises that we've been doing today. Dinah, is there any like final words that you wanted to say?
Just wanted to encourage you. I know some of this may sound like bad news, and I really want to direct you to where your efforts will pay off the most. And I want to say that corporate support is there. It will take effort, and it can pay off if you think about mutual transformation. So even if this has shown you that somewhere else is going to be better for your resources, then I hope that is helpful. But if you are in your journey, then all the best. There are some fantastic relationships to be made.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And I will send the recording out of this tomorrow as well. So you'll have that. Thank you all for joining us. It's been really great. Bye.
Bye.